Always overlooked, even after years of supporting my parents. Even when my son was in the hospital, they still chose my sister over us. My son is in the emergency room, I texted. We are busy with Megan, my mother said, before saying something nasty about my son. So I terminated all of their house payments, vehicle loans, and credit cards. I stood in the hallway of my childhood home, my gaze drawn to the framed images on the wall, my sister's graduation, her wedding day, and the birth of her first kid. My parents were beaming with delight in every shot. Any indication of my personal successes was conspicuously absent. A familiar tightness developed in my gut. After 35 years, you'd think I'd be over it. My mother's voice came from the kitchen. Sharon, is that you? Come give me a hand with these dishes. I halted. I didn't come here to clean the dishes. I had come to draw boundaries. When I entered the kitchen, my mother was hurriedly arranging an appetizer dish. Megan's party, of course. My sister had recently been promoted to department manager at a nearby bank, a position she had obtained through my father's connections. Can you finish these while I get ready? She asked, drying her hands on a towel before waiting for my response. Your father picked up the wrong crackers. Megan prefers sesame, not plain. I simply nodded and took her position at the counter. Same story, different situation. My phone rang with a message from Diane, my ex-sister-in-law. Did you tell them yet? I had not. How do you tell your parents that you're cutting them off financially after years of support? How do you explain that their sole grandson recently finished a family tree project that did not include them? The front door banged closed. Heavy footsteps approached. Sharon, my father said, scarcely glancing my way. Where's your mother? Megan will be here in an hour. My chest tightened. She's getting ready. He nodded once before disappearing into the living room without saying anything. I slowly arranged the crackers, remembering how many times I had stood in this kitchen, waiting for acceptance that never came. Despite my full scholarship to USC, promotion to senior analyst, and the birth of my son, Max, nothing could divert their attention away from Megan. She had always been their darling kid, the one they had after years of heartbreaking miscarriages, the one they had long given up on having. I was only a trial run, a practice attempt. I'd spent my entire life trying to earn what she had so easily received, their admiration, attention, and pride. When Justin walked out on me for a coworker 3 years ago, I expected my parents to step up. Their daughter had unexpectedly become a single mother, and she clearly needed help. Instead, they questioned whether I was responsible for the marriage's demise. Had I concentrated too much on my career? Had I ignored my role as a wife? It wasn't them who gave assistance, it was Justin's parents, Diane and Brent, who are no longer my in-laws but remain my true family. They brought Max up from school, looked after him on weekends when my profession needed me to travel, and showered him with affection and attention. Meanwhile, my parents had been too absorbed with other matters. Until 6 months ago, the unexpected shift had taken me off guard. Suddenly, they called every week to inquire about Max, invited us over for Sunday dinners, and offered to babysit. I really wanted to believe it meant anything. Perhaps they'd now recognized what they'd been missing all these years. Perhaps they'd finally chosen to be present as grandparents. Then Megan got promoted, and everything became plain. They had not changed. They simply needed money. My mother returned to the kitchen, wearing a new shirt that I had paid for. Did you finish the appetizers? Megan will be here any minute now. I tilted my head and slid the tray in her direction. We need to talk about something. Her expression changed quickly, from delight to anxiety. What is it? Can't this wait until after the event? It could, but it shouldn't, I answered, my voice more firm than I expected. I'm stopping all financial contributions. Her face had lost all color. What financial contributions? As if she had no knowledge, as if I hadn't been covering their car loan for half a decade, as if I hadn't taken care of the cost of the roof replacement last summer, the property taxes, the vacation to Hawaii. My hands trembled slightly, but I pressed them firmly to the counter. The car loan, the credit accounts, the home insurance, everything. She stared at me, her lips opening and shutting, looking for words. Why would you do this, after all we've done for you? A bitter, humorless chuckle erupted before I could contain it. Oh, and what exactly have you done for me? We raised you, we made sure you had food to eat. At the very least. She was seeking to take credit for basic parental responsibilities. When Justin left, who actually supported me? When Max was sick and needed to get to his follow-up appointments, who helped get him there? Who stepped in when I was promoted? Who even acknowledged it? They weren't there. Never them. My father strode into the threshold, his brow furrowed. What's going on here? My mother turned to face him, her voice rising in wrath. Sharon says she's cutting us off financially, after everything we've done for her. His face clouded. Is this about that situation? We already explained it. It's about everything, the words gushed forth, years of disappointment, neglect, and understanding flooding forth. It's about Max calling Diane grandma because she actually treats him like one. It's about you two skipping his birthday to go on Megan's vacation. It's about me needing emergency surgery, and you refusing to pick up your own grandson because Megan had dinner 3 weeks ago. Appendicitis. I'd been brought to the ER, barely awake from the pain. My sole clear thought was that Max was alone at after-school care, waiting for someone to take him up. Naturally, my first call was to my folks. "We're at Megan's promotion dinner," my mother replied, displeasure pouring from her voice. "Can his father get him?" Justin was visiting Seattle with his new bride. I could scarcely communicate through the anguish. "Well, we can't leave now?" Megan would be devastated. Then came the ultimate blow. "He's just so much work sometimes, a burden. My child, their grandson, is a nuisance." Diane, on the other hand, had responded very instantly. She dropped everything. She not only picked up Max but also stayed with me in the hospital overnight, rearranging waiting room chairs to build a makeshift bed where he might sleep. That was the moment when I realized the difference between responsibility and love, blood and actual family. My father's voice brought me back into the present. "You're overreacting? We couldn't leave Megan's dinner. You know how much it meant to her. More important than their grandchild being alone and scared? More important than their daughter's hasty surgery?" "I'm done," I said quietly but firmly. "No more financial support, no more pretending. You don't get to use me when it benefits you and discard me when it doesn't." My mother's face crumpled, not with regret, but with calculating. "The car payment is due in a few days, and your father's medication. Megan's new pay could cover it, or they could finally tap into their retirement savings, which they had been hoarding while I was financing their lifestyle. Not my responsibility anymore." The front door opened, and Megan's cheery voice boomed out. "Mom, Dad, I brought champagne." That was my cue to depart. I grabbed my purse off the countertop. "Sharon, wait," my mother pleaded in despair. "You can't do this to us?" But I could and was. I passed past Megan in the corridor, noticing the look of perplexity on her face. "Sharon, I didn't know you were coming to my celebration." I wasn't. I had only come to withdraw my final emotional investment, the last traces of care for people who had never truly seen me. "Congratulations on the promotion," I remarked, sincere in tone. Megan's accomplishments had never been the issue. The real difficulty had always been our parents' refusal to accept both of their children. Her expression flickered with apprehension. "Thanks. Are you heading out already?" I gave a quick nod, refusing to rely on my voice any longer. Allow them to explain themselves, and let them deal with the consequences of their own actions. The ride home was weird, like drifting through a haze. Tears welled up, but they were not from grief, but from relief. The weight I'd carried for years, continually searching for unconditional love, had finally been removed. Max was at Sharon's home. My previous mother-in-law had sent me images of him covered in baking flour, genuine joy mirrored in his eyes, and happiness in every shot. Love, genuine and unvarnished. Family isn't about responsibility or shared blood. It's about the people that stay, the ones who accept you for who you are. 3 months went by. No phone calls or manipulative messaging, absolute quiet. Then, on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon, my phone screen displayed my mother's name. My finger hovered above the decline button, but curiosity prevailed. I picked it up. "Karen," she said in a stiff tone, her words carefully chosen. "We need to talk about this situation." The situation refers to their financial difficulties without my support. There's nothing left to discuss. A beat of quiet. Then, her voice dripped with contempt. "Megan refuses to help us, saying we need to learn how to handle our own expenses." The venom in her tone was unmistakable. "The car was taken away yesterday, and the mortgage is 2 months late." "Not my concern, not anymore." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, and a little part of me was, because I was raised to feel that their comfort and well-being were my responsibility. "You can't just leave us like this. We're your parents." The link is biological, not emotional. They had never fulfilled their responsibilities as parents in the ways that mattered. "I have to go. Max has soccer practice." "Karen, don't." I terminated the conversation and blocked the number. Across the kitchen, Max was working on his school assignment, a family tree. "How's it going, kiddo?" I inquired, leaning in. At the top, he had sketched Sharon and Brent, labeled Grandma and Grandpa. Below them, Mom and Dad, were written under mine and Justin's names, and at the bottom, himself. There is no Megan, nor are there maternal grandparents. I carefully questioned, "Is this everyone in our family?" He nodded with confidence. "These are the ones who love us." Simple, profound, and true. That night, after Max had fallen asleep, I sat on the back porch with a glass of wine. A gentle breeze swept on my skin as I considered inheritance. Not cash or property, but the emotional heritage carried down through generations, the concepts taught in us about love, value, and relationships. My parents had inherited their own traumas, their mistaken belief that love had to be earned, and that children were obliged to their parents rather than cherished by them. But cycles do not have to reoccur. Patterns can be rewritten. Max would inherit something different from me. The unshakable belief that love is not a transaction, that family is chosen, and that the most essential thing is simply being present. Sharon's phone vibrated with a message. Brian's making his famous chili this Sunday. Are you and Max coming? I smiled as I replied back. Wouldn't miss it. This was my legacy now. No shame, no responsibility, just choice, connection, and love given freely and totally. For the first time in my life, I felt fully abundant in what really mattered. Looking back, I could see the pattern clearly. The persistent pursuit, the never-ending fight, the frantic want to be acknowledged. My sense of value has always been assessed in terms of their validation, or lack thereof. Every milestone had been a silent request. Notice me, care about me, and acknowledge me. My childhood room's walls had originally been covered with academic diplomas, spelling bee medals, and math competition trophies, all of which had accumulated dust while my parents joyfully attended Megan's soccer matches, dancing performances, and mundane school functions. When I was accepted to USC on a full scholarship, my father simply sneered at the letter of admission. California? That's too far away. And who is supposed to assist your mother with the household? Not you, Megan. She was too focused on being the center of their universe. I left anyway. I worked my way through graduate school, developed a job in finance, and became self-sufficient. Then I met Justin, charismatic, confident Justin, who had a loving glance and the inexplicable capacity to make me feel like the most important person in any situation. His family immediately welcomed me. Holiday gatherings where my opinions were valued, weekend cookouts where my ideas were heard. His mother, Diane, merely called to check in. His father, Brent, taught me how to change the oil in my automobile. It was strange, this easy acceptance, this genuine interest in me. When we married, my parents found excuses to complain about everything: the venue, the date, the meal. Megan, who served as my maid of honor, appeared uninterested during the ceremony. My parents left early, citing Megan's early morning appointment the next day. Justin's parents stayed until the very end, assisting with the cleanup and welcoming me as if I had always belonged to their family. Mark's presence should have altered everything. He was their first grandchild, yet they only visited once, for less than an hour. My mother had clumsily held him before swiftly giving him back. He resembles Justin, she had said, as if this justified her emotional detachment. Diane and Brent, however, were different. They brought home-cooked meals, offered to stay overnight during the exhausting first few weeks, and held Max for hours so I could rest, shower, and feel normal again. Justin then walked away, sending a text message rather than having a face-to-face talk. Sharon discovered me huddled up on the bathroom floor sobbing. Sharon packed an overnight bag for Max. Sharon took us both into her house as I tried to understand the breakdown of my marriage. How did my folks respond? A single telephone call. My mother's tone had been uncomfortably near to satisfaction. Men don't appreciate women who prioritize their careers. I warned you. As if my drive had been the fault, as if I had somehow deserved to be left behind. The divorce was painful. Justin fought for financial assets but showed little interest in custody. He sought independence from duty. Sharon and Brian were stuck in the middle, divided between their love for their son and their displeasure with his decisions. You're still family, Brian had assured me with unflinching confidence. That doesn't change. Mark is our grandson. You're his mother. The equation is simple. Simple for them, but unfathomable to my own parents. As legal fees piled up, single parenthood, full-time employment, and the stress of court hearings became too much, I ultimately turned to them. I asked for aid, only temporarily, until things steadied. My father reluctantly wrote a check, small and begrudging. Don't rely on this. We're not a financial institution. However, when their own vehicle broke down the following month, they contacted us quickly. Can you cover this? Just this once, just until we're back on track. That one time turned into countless times. Their demands grew, my limits dwindled, and deep inside, I held onto a stupid, silent dream that if I simply gave enough, sacrificed enough, they would finally care about me the way they cared about Megan. Pathetic, transparent, and desperate, but I couldn't stop. Not until the crisis, not until he's such a burden, did I finally see the truth. It had never been love. It had always been an exchange, and my financial support had always served to buy their fleeting attention. Never their devotion, never their genuine concern. That understanding split something deep within me, yet it also provided me with release. I no longer needed to prove that I was worthy of love. I already had it, from Max, Sharon, and Brian, from friends who truly cared, colleagues who respected me, and the family I had created rather than the one I was born into. 1 week after leaving my parents' house, my phone rang, and Megan's name flashed across the screen, an uncommon event. We only communicated about twice a year, and our conversations were courteous but disconnected. What did you say to Mom and Dad? Her tone was angry and defensive. They're spiraling over money. My reply was simple. No more financial aid, no more enabling. They have their precious favorite, she can step up now. The stillness from her end had been awful. They think you're being cruel, that you're getting revenge for the past. But was it really cruel to stop emptying myself for their sake? Was it actually vengeance to finally hold them responsible for years of emotional neglect? I'm not punishing anyone, I had said. I'm simply finished pretending. Megan had sighed, a sound both tired and familiar. They're never going to change, you know. They've always been like this. We made a rare acknowledgement, a common knowledge of the roles we'd been assigned before we even had a choice, her as the cherished one, me as the disregarded. I know they won't change, I responded. But I have. Another pause. Then, good for you. 2 simple words, but perhaps the most genuine thing she'd spoken to me in years. After we hung up, I thought about Megan's reality. Did she feel their expectations in a different way? Did being the preferred child impose its own invisible burdens? It didn't excuse her role in my marginalization, but it did help me understand why she did. We were both cast in roles that we had never consented to perform. Months after cutting financial links, I finally understood what true freedom entailed, not just freedom from responsibility, but also freedom from seeking acceptance from people who were incapable of providing it. My worth had never been determined by their recognition, my value had never been linked to their acceptance. I had always been enough. They just didn't see it. Mark ran into the kitchen, interrupting my thoughts. Mom, Grandma Sharon says she's making spaghetti tonight. Can we go now? Grandma Sharon. A title gained not by blood, but by love, presence, and a million small acts of kindness. Of course, buddy, grab your shoes. As he sprinted toward the door, a great sensation of gratitude washed over me, for this bright, resilient youngster, for the family we had built out of choice rather than duty, and for the profound wisdom that had arisen from struggle. Sometimes the most significant lessons come from what we learn through pain, the desire to break cycles, be better, and create something new. My parents had shown me the type of mother and human I refused to become. And for that, weirdly, I felt grateful. As I drove approaching Sharon and Brian's house, Mark happily conversing beside me, I felt something click into place. The journey from craving for acceptance to finding peace, from seeking affirmation in others to finding it inside myself, had come full circle. I'd been carrying the weight of inheritance, emotional debts, ingrained routines, and suffocating expectations for far too long. But I'd finally let them go. And what was left was lighter, purer, and completely mine. Family, love, belonging, not in transactions, not duties, not desperate attempts to establish my worth. But it was a purposeful and intentional choice, based on the peaceful assurance that I was finally where I was supposed to be. Now to the next story, story 2. My husband wants me to quit and stay home with the kids, but I love being a chef and the thought of being a housewife suffocates me. Original post January 16, 2022. For anonymity I can't go into details, but my husband, 34M, has developed something in IT that's well known and it made him rich. I, 38F, am a chef and I make probably 1/100th of what he does. It doesn't matter for me, however, because I love my job. We have a great life together. We had our first child, a baby girl, 3 years ago, and our twin boys are 9 months old. I have a few months left of my maternity leave, and with the country closing up again because of the new Omicron variant, I started getting worried that my workplace won't take me back. I voiced my worries to my husband a couple of days ago and he just shrugged and said it's not like we needed the money. I was confused and told him that I knew that. It wasn't about the money. He just shrugged. I was a bit annoyed because I thought he didn't think it was a big deal that I was out of work. Yesterday, I was still thinking about it, so I decided to talk to him again. He was confused and told me that I should instead be happy that I could spend more time with my babies. And he asked me why I insisted on working when we have 3 small children and he made enough money for both of us. He didn't like me working 4 to 5 evenings a week, including 1 to 2 weekends a month. I told him that I love my job and that I'm good at it. I have been doing it for almost 20 years now, and the thought of not doing anything for the rest of my life is suffocating. He was visibly upset by then, and he accused me of loving my job more than my babies and him. I could always cook at home for the family, and if I was worried I would lose my independence, he could transfer the same amount I earned from my job to my private account monthly. I started crying and he kissed and hugged me and told me that he loved me, but he has been thinking of this since our girl was born and he didn't like me coming home late at night. So I needed to choose between my job or being a family. I was startled. Did he mean it as an ultimatum? He did. He actually wants me to be a housewife or we go our separate ways. I went to my mom's place first thing this morning. She listened to me talking and crying, but when I finished she wasn't indignant on my behalf, like I expected. She was silent for a while and then she asked me to think carefully about my next move. If we get divorced, I need to think about my babies. I will never be able to give them the life their dad is giving them and I might lose them because of it. Is it worth it to change their lives so drastically and have them live in 2 separate houses? All that for a job. I have worked my whole adult life and I just could see this as an early retirement. Many dreamed of this. Why couldn't I enjoy it? I wasn't expecting my mom to say these things. She's always been this strong, independent woman who raised us to be independent and taught me to never rely 100% on anyone other than myself. Hearing her say all that made me question my feelings. Before I met her I was totally sure I was right being hurt and angry, but now I think maybe I'm overreacting and that my husband's request wasn't that unreasonable. But if that's the case, why do I feel like my heart is swollen in my throat? Why does it feel like he made this ultimatum because he knew he has power and he's using it? Throw any suggestion or advice my way and please be honest. Not rude, honest, because I feel I'm wronged here and I'm having a hard time thinking from my husband's perspective. Update January 27, 2022. So I have posted here about 2 weeks ago about my husband not wanting me to go back to work after maternity leave. I got a lot of real good advice. I just want to clarify some things about my post that many seem to have misinterpreted. I'm sorry my language wasn't very clear. I don't work 4 to 5 days plus weekends. I work 35 to 45 hours a week in total, and sometimes it's during the weekend. Staying at home mom isn't normal in my country. Daycare is free and we don't have a nanny. I'm saying this because I want you to understand why I was taken aback about this whole situation. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to stay-at-home moms. He can't get sole custody just because of his wealth. Or because of my work hours. It doesn't work like this here, thank God. But I'm thankful for those who expressed worry about that because I know this is the sad reality in other parts of the world. So to the update, I have had long talks with my husband about all of what happened, trying to understand his point of view. I have told him that I can't see myself as a housewife, ever, but that I am willing to start looking for jobs with better hours, or that I can finally start my own restaurant. I could start searching for a location in office buildings and start a lunch spot so then I don't need to work evenings and weekends. He didn't seem happy at all with that suggestion. He asked me why I'm so insistent on going back to work. He said these last months have been the happiest of his life, coming home from work every day to his family, and that he thought I am happy too. I am? I love being with my babies all day, but just because I'm enjoying my maternity leave it doesn't mean I don't want to go back to work. In fact, I'm enjoying every minute now because I know it's not permanent. We had a row. He said he's always felt that I'm scared of him making much more money and that I'm scared of being dependent on him, so if I'm insisting on working because I don't want to be dependent, he could pay me 10 times what I earn to stay home. I started crying and told him I'm not going to be a housewife and I don't accept ultimatums, so he should do what he feels fit. He said he's tired of going around feeling that his wife is intimidated by his success. He's doing this for both of us. I have to admit that I'm sometimes scared of him having more power than me. He said it's all in my head, but really would he ever dare to ask me to quit my job if he didn't feel he had the power to do it? Could I ask him to quit his job with that same ease? There's no denying the power dynamics in our relationship and I have all the right to be scared of it. So there was no progress really, and no matter how much I explained myself he doesn't seem to understand me. And probably he feels the same way with me. It feels like we're on different levels. I have suggested counseling. He said he will think about it. Now we're just civil to each other, but we don't talk much and we haven't been intimate since I first brought up going back to work. I love him and I miss him. I don't want it to end, but the ball is in his court now. My mom is very angry with me. We haven't spoken for a week. I don't know what to do with her either. Update 2. Monday, January 31st. Thank you everyone for the support. I won't be able to make any more updates because you're only allowed one. This is however not a big update, so I thought I could just add it here before the post gets locked. I will not delete this account in case I need more advice or have another update in the future that I can post as a new subject. My husband and I talked yesterday, for the first time in 2 weeks, and he was the one who initiated the conversation. I saw my chance to try to find out why he's behaving like this and at the same time make sure that he knows that I'm not backing up. I told him that while I'm enjoying my maternity leave, the thought of it being for the rest of my life suffocated me. I suffer from severe claustrophobia. I don't if it has anything to do with this. I asked him why he's doing this. He knew my job was important to me, so why was he making this impossible request when he knew it would mean the end of us? If you are having second thoughts about our marriage and want an out, please just tell me the truth. He became very upset and accused me of trying to gaslight him. He said his reasons are legit. There's nothing wrong with wanting his wife to be there for her family, and the children won't stop needing me just because they went to school. I started crying. Sorry, I'm a crybaby. And I told him if this is over he should know it's all on him. He started yelling. No, it was because I'm too stubborn and too self-involved to actually take a second and think about his wishes. I wanted to leave because I couldn't be with him anymore, but he said that it would be more convenient if he did. He's moved to our city apartment. I feel lost and hurt. I love him so much, but I don't think continuing this relationship is healthy for either of us. My heart is breaking for my children. I don't know what to do. For now I will just sit tight and wait for him to send me the divorce papers. Thank you again for the help and advice. It helped a lot. P.S. Mom was here yesterday. We talked a lot and she's finally getting on my side. I knew that when it came to it, she will be on my side, and I'm so grateful. We're separating February 10th, 2022. Thank you everyone for the support. My husband and I are separating. This is what he wants. As I suspected, this was more than just me going back to work. He's been feeling resentment towards a lot of things about me, many of them I can't change and the rest I don't want to change. It's not his or my fault. We're just not compatible with each other anymore. I still have 14 months with my babies. Afterwards, all children are big enough for shared custody. I'm staying in the big house for now, but after divorce I'm going to move back to the city. I have been talking to my boss about my job. She will help me find a schedule around having the children, so maybe I will work lunch hours the weeks I have them. My ambition is still to open my own, but maybe a bit further in the future. I still love him. I thought we were inseparable, but when he started resenting the very same things he loved about me, I knew this was hopeless. It sucks big time and hurts like hell, but here we are. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.